Hello, and welcome to Gifted in Real Life, where I talk to individuals who are 9 to 5 professionals as well as entrepreneurs who have decided to take their talents and skills and gifts on the road to pursue their livelihood. And I have a very special guest today, Miss Josie Williams, that I'm so excited to talk about and just let you hear her story and her journey. I just can't wait for you to hear. So, Josie, if you wouldn't mind just telling us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do.
Sure. I'm Josie Williams. I am founder and CEO of Envision Consultant Group, which is a firm committed to promoting shared power in communities by providing expert guidance and support to those building sustainable solutions or creating equitable changes within their organization or even their community. I'm the former and most recent executive director for the Greensboro Housing Coalition. And the Greensboro Housing Coalition is a leading affordable housing advocacy agency in Greensboro, North Carolina. And our work under that agency spearheaded a lot of great community change, including playing a critical role in initiating, expanding, and accelerating an environmental justice movement in this community. And I am a native of Greensboro, North Carolina, a mother, a wife, and a new grandmother.
Oh, congratulations. Is it a boy or a girl?
A little girl, so she
Oh,
joined the trio now. She's a trio now, so it's now
oh,
she was born May 5th, and so she joins her two siblings, my 6-year-old grandson and my 10-year-old granddaughter.
nice,
So
nice,
excited.
nice.
Mhm.
All right. So tell us how you came to do the work that you do. What led to that?
I started the Envision Consultant Group from envisioning the desired future that I wanted to see in communities and that I wanted to design for myself. And that um, forging of this new consulting firm really is coming out of my own personal lived experience and my experience with financial insecurity, homelessness, and also working as an advocate and organizer and an executive throughout the last several years of my time with the Greensboro Housing Coalition and working with a multi-sector partnership, the Collaborative Cottage Grove. And so, as I mentioned, me coming through homelessness, that was a very pivotal change in my life. It was very challenging to say the least, traumatizing. But when I came out of that, as I was coming through it, rather, I made a promise to myself and honestly a promise to God that if I ever got out of it, I would always give back and help others who are trying to be self-sustaining and build more equitable change and push back and change systems that actually perpetuate the cycle that I was stuck in. It's not always about an individualistic behavior. It is sometimes and more oftentimes than not, um, folks like me are stuck in this cycle because of the inequitable systems that are designed to hold us down or exclude us from opportunities. And that was my life for quite some time. And coming out of that, growing and developing, becoming more self-sustaining, I landed an opportunity to be an intern at the Greensboro Housing Coalition in 2014. I loved it. Did it for a semester, went to Washington, D.C., did similar work, advocating for those who are in need of housing, those who are at risk of homelessness. Loved it. And when I got back to Greensboro from Washington, I was looking for a job opportunity. And the previous executive director, prior to the one before me, took my resume and handed it to my predecessor. And they were embarking upon this new way of doing community change work. they were looking at how to align and integrate community with health systems, which was very different and unique, particularly because you're looking at taking a grassroots movement or a grassroots initiative and integrating and communicating and collaborating with the health system, which we know is very top down in structure, but you're looking to integrate and collaborate with a very bottom up structure. And so they hired me to be the project coordinator. And under my leadership, that partnership of those different sectors, including academia, city and city government, neighborhood associations, community-based organizations, nonprofits. We grew from 4 partners to about 10 or 15 in 6 months. And so the work was very successful. And we had a lot of great health outcomes that related to the changes that we created. And then over time, we began to expand, we began to scale, and then I became director of community engagement. All the time, having the ability to work in such a way that I was able to help those that were in similar situations that I was in, and yet also address root causes to what we call social determinants of health or social drivers of health, those facets of where we live, work, and play, all the things that contribute to how well you live, work, or play, or how bad or not so well you live, work, and play. And so once I became director of community engagement, we had more successes. We were able to help spearhead the renovation of an apartment complex that was causing many people in the community, especially children, to get sick because of the substandard housing conditions. We were able to move the needle and get this particular community that we were working in prioritized for its infrastructure changes, such as adding sidewalks. It did not have sidewalks in the entire neighborhood, so it wasn't a walkable community, and other things that we were able to accomplish under my leadership. And the driving force for me was always in the back of my mind is creating changes and trying to ensure that I had a hand in people experiencing less of the trauma that I did, and trying to push back and change the systems that was perpetuating that. And it brought me to the executive director role in 2020, where I became executive director at the height of the pandemic. Boy, I tell you, if you knew the future, I don't think I would have
Wow.
I wouldn't have taken that role.
Well, everything happens for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Right. So you have said a lot there, a lot of profound things, and I want to take a step back and
Mhm.
unpack it a little bit, because I think that there are a lot of people who hear people talk about homelessness, but they really don't have a frame of reference for it. And I know you, so I know how fabulous you are. And if you wouldn't mind, I just want to take a step back. Would you mind sharing, as much as you're comfortable with, about situations, circumstances that led to homelessness for you? Because I think a lot of people have these preconceived ideas
Yeah.
about what leads to homelessness, or what a homeless person's profile is or is not. And I think it's important to talk to someone who was doing all the right stuff.
Yeah.
And so if you, again, just if you wouldn't mind sharing.
Yeah, of course. You know, it's funny, Juanica, you asked me that. I was woke till 2:30 in the morning. I picked back up a book I started in 2019 about my journey. And
Yay!
I did. I found stories that I had wrote back in 2019. And do you not know, I just looked at all that last night and revamped 7 stories, 7 chapters to like 2, 3 in the morning last night. I was on a roll. So it's very
Wow.
interesting that you're asking me these questions. And I tell you, one of the things that I wrote is that the trauma that you experience from such an ordeal, I started that in 2019, but the impact that it had on me, I had embedded a lot in my subconscious that I was not ready to bring to surface, and I put it down. So here
Mm,
now in 2023, when I read back over those stories, I felt empowered but I also felt like, wow, I think I've been healing because it's not impacting me, and I think I can do this now. And I stayed
Wow.
up and wrote some stories. And so I tell you that one of the things, as far as my experience, is that I was working full time. I was working multiple jobs, and I still was not making ends meet. And my father was a part of my safety net. So he was the one that would always come to me and have my back. Not saying my mother didn't. He was just the stronger nurturer. My mother was like, get a job, you can do this. And he was like, what do you need? The thing about those two scenarios, those two behaviors,
Dynamics.
yes, right? Those two dynamics, they're both needed. The generosity and the nurturing and the safety net of my father, and the um, uh, gumption and the take the initiative spirit of my mother, I think that was both needed in my experience and my evolution of how I came through that. The thing about it, what I didn't understand at play until now, the dynamic of the system perpetuating the cycle that I was in, because I was working full time. I had two jobs, and I was still living paycheck to paycheck. Well, my father died of cancer. That nurturing, that safety net, that what do you need, that extra support left. And without that extra support, my world crumbled very quickly. And although I was working and doing everything that I could, I was saving, I was trying to manage my funding the best that I could. I was still making decisions on whether or not to pay the rent, feed me and my daughter, keep the lights on, and none of those situations at hand was never equal. I had to choose. I never could do all at once. I was either paying the rent late, I was paying the light bill late. I was either paying, either my daughter would eat, which she always did, or many days and times I did not eat. It was always this burden and weight, but I was never balanced. So not long, 30 to 60 days, I lost my job. So first the safety net broke, which began to crumble the foundation. And that foundation was already shaky. Then I lose my job. It crumbled and everything else, the walls came down. And overnight, it was basically, within the next few days, because keep in mind, again, paying rent late or eating. Well, that was a particular month I chose to pay the rent late. That was a particular month. I was like, I got to keep this gas in this car because I got to get to this other job because maybe that'll help me with the hours. That was the particular month that I was like, I got to pay the insurance this time or my tabs are going to get revoked. So I chose to pay the rent late. So when I lost the job, I'm already 30 days behind in rent. So within the next 30 days after my father died, I was living in the car. I had to immediately pivot and gather as much as I could. I used a little bit of money trying to protect and hold all my little furniture that I had and clothing that wouldn't fit in my car. And I got a storage building. It didn't dawn on me, you're not going to be able to keep that storage, sweetheart. You don't have a car, you don't have a job. But I was just trying to protect and hold everything
that you had.
So I spent money to get a storage area, put everything in storage that I could, and put all my clothing in my trunk. Everything that I could manage to keep, I put in my trunk, and that's where my journey began in homelessness. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna sort of zigzag a little bit. So one of the things that I do as a business professional is I coach people on how to take their talents and skills and turn it into a full-time coaching business. And one of the reasons I like to do that is because there was a time in my life where I made a decision to quit my job, and that is when I was pregnant with my oldest child. I was a principal, and I worked it out strategically so that I could take maternity leave, like extended what would have been for me. Because even though I was a principal, I still worked 12 months out of the year. A lot of people think principals get the summers off. I guess some do, but I did not. I wasn't set up that way, but I saved up my time. And after I had my daughter, I just had this desire that was so compelling that I couldn't do anything. I was really, really like heartsick.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to be a mom full time. And that meant leaving my job. And
Mm,
at the time, a six-figure job.
mm,
And so my husband and I had talked about it, but we hadn't planned for it. And so I just felt like He had just convicted my heart to stay home. And I just felt like when the time came for me to go back to work, He would help me to figure out what to do. And there were a lot of things that I tried that did not work, and a lot of trial and error. And like you have to have a supernatural belief in yourself. And what I mean by supernatural is a belief that doesn't make sense to other people. You have to be so strong that you don't care what anybody thinks about what you're doing, or at least don't care enough to let it change what you're working toward. And so once I figured out something that was a good mix of my skills, my interests, and my talents, um, I got really excited and really happy. Like, being a business coach makes me happy for a lot of reasons, because number one, I get to give solicited advice. Number two, it brings me joy to be able to help people to do something that they love. And not only that, to sort of control, not sort of, but to control your financial fate. Because a lot of us go to school, we're college educated, and we don't have financial literacy. And that was something that I definitely had to tackle, because I don't care what you do, whether you work a 9 to 5, whether you're an entrepreneur, you need financial literacy. And for so many of us, we don't have that coming out of high school, coming out of college. We're just left to figure it out. And it's such a disservice. Um, like, just having financial literacy and understanding that you can create a system to put your money to work so that you can live the life that you want and deserve is what we can all benefit from. So talk to me about your mindset when it comes to financial literacy and education now versus what you had back then. How do you see those? How do you see that?
You know, it's been such a evolution of change and understanding and desire. Change in the mindset of saving and why we do that, how to do that in the most effective way, even when you have small means. Um, the desire to want to do it comes from your understanding of your why you're doing it. And so my desire in this evolution of my journey changed because my understanding changed. My understanding changed regarding why you need an IRA or 401 when you're working with a company that tells you I'll match dollars or I'll match even more than what you put in. When I didn't have the understanding, I did not have the desire to utilize such an benefit. And so I had jobs where I did not partake of that benefit. And when I reflect on the money that I could have gained now that I utilize that benefit in my current state and how helpful it has been, I think that when it comes to financial literacy, it is very key that people understand the why. Because when you are coming from a place of so little means, you're trying to hold everything you got. If there were days where throughout my journey of homelessness, I would work anywhere I could get a job. It didn't matter if it was temporary. It didn't matter if it was going to be a week. It didn't matter if it was going to be 2 days. It didn't matter if it was in manufacturing. It didn't matter if it was painting, which I did. It didn't matter if I was in office typing. It didn't matter if I was working at a trucking company in a desk with cement walls and it was freezing every day. I did all the things to get money. And some days I would get $50. Some days I would get 100, and some I would get 2. The most I got in that length of time in that year of homelessness was a $200 check. That's the most I ever got. And I did receive a check one time for like $25 because I just did something for like 30 minutes or something. There was no way. I was like, I'm saving anything. But you know what helped me? I had a clear understanding, to be honest with you, of tithe and offering.
Mm.
And it didn't matter if I had $5, $10, or $1. I tithe off of everything I got.
Wow.
So I began to, as I, journeyed through and came through, my mindset actually reflected back on that. Why did I do that? Again, financial literacy. Why did I do that? How was I going through such a traumatic situation, but I was so strong in my commitment and in my understanding that you tithe no matter what? How is it that I didn't have that same understanding when it came to understanding why you take that benefit when someone's offering you an IRA or 401k, they're going to match dollars. You see what I'm saying, Monique? So I began to build my understanding so I could have my why solidified. And as that understanding grew, that helped me research to learn for myself regarding credit, how to maintain it, how to build it, how to revive it. Because my credit report was 20 pages long and nothing on it was good. Because
Wow.
I remember one time it was being 24 pages. I wish I had kept that for a historical moment.
Wow.
I am not lying. It was 24 pages of nothing good because it took me around 10 years to recover from homelessness, from 1 year, because
Wow.
I lost everything. And so one day I sat down and I got this book, and it was called Girl, Get Your Credit Straight. I'll never forget that little book. And it gave me all these methods and tools of how to begin to build and maintain and sustain and where to start and how to revive. And I was like, what it did for me, it built my understanding. It helped me, my desire change. And when I started seeing or getting small wins, if you will, I was reaping the good benefit of these different practices as I was putting into place. Even in my recovery mode, 5 years later, I'm still struggling. I'm still, making ends meet. But you know what? I was just as solidified on getting that credit right and putting these things into practice just as I was with that tithe. And over time, each year got a little better. Each year I saw a benefit. I began to understand how to use credit to your advantage. I began to understand it's not bad. It's actually very helpful if you utilize it right. I began to understand why it's really good sometimes, depending on your situation, just to use cash and use credit for emergencies only, right? And so my understanding grew. My why was solidified, my desire changed. And that's the foundation of my financial literacy. And then over time, I began to, speak with other people that was even more experienced like you, more experienced in how they came to be more stable in their lives. And I just put into practice the wisdom that I was gaining. But the only way that I was able to do that is because my why and my understanding changed my desire. If you do not build the understanding in individuals, you can tell them all day, financial literacy is needed. But when you are strapped and you have nothing and you are barely making ends meet, don't nobody want to hear about no financial literacy. You've got to connect in the depth of their understanding to begin to change that desire. And that comes with building knowledge. And my knowledge began to grow. And now I love to see money grow.
We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about that. Okay, so before we get on that topic, I want to ask you, so you mentioned that you were an executive director and now you have your own consulting firm. So who did you have to become to make that transition happen? And what did you have to do?
To become executive director, and then become my own business owner, I had to come to believe that I could do it. That's the first thing. I had to have, it's not enough to have a vision and a desire. You have to believe that you are equipped already to do the thing that you desire to do. Fear is is such a stronghold and will have you so stagnant. But if that vision inside you is to the point that you are so unsatisfied until you tap into that thing. And I was so unsatisfied, and I did not want to not try to build the thing that I had been seeing for so many years. The executive director role now, and as I reflect, wasn't my first choice to do at that time in my life. I was approached to apply. And I remember thinking, oh, I was just about to really tap into understanding like how to start my own business. I don't know if I want to do that. But that desire in me, again, that vision in me to help others come out of or be a part of addressing these systemic issues, that even was driving me even more so. And my vision was, my thought process was, I now have an opportunity to be in a position of power and influence where I could do exactly the thing that I've been desiring to do for so many years, from ever since I came through homelessness. That experience changed the trajectory of my life, and my mindset completely changed. So I accepted, after going through the process, I accepted the role as executive director and did great things. However, the evolution of our journey, honey, is always changing. Yes, my husband gave me the opportunity to move to Atlanta, Georgia. And it's so, the timing of a thing, your gift and your vision, it's always going to move for you and open up a door for you in right timing. I believe that with all my heart. And I think it's very interesting, 3 years to the date that I became executive director, my husband gave an opportunity to move to Georgia. And of course, I'm following. And my decision was doors of opportunity instantly open to do these other great things with other organizations. But this time I was like, no, I'm going to do this other part of the thing that's been in my heart, this other piece of the vision. I have to try it. I have to experience it. I have to see if I can build and create and work with individuals and organizations on my term in the way that I envision. I want to be a part of, in a tangible way, creating the desired future in communities that I envision and that others envision that are like-minded like me. And I got to touch it. I got to do it. And I was steadfast on doing that. The interesting thing throughout that time period, my husband didn't even notice. Before he even brought the opportunity to move to Atlanta, my mindset was already twirling. I kept having this little nudge like, uh-oh, you ain't gonna be doing this long. I was feeling it. I was like, oh, Lord, I got to talk to this man. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm ED of this wonderful organization. We're doing great things, but something was nudging me. I was like, oh, Lord, I got to have a conversation soon. But it worked out. He brought it to me. I got to follow my husband. But the door, I'm able to reap the benefit of that move, but it wasn't really in the beginning necessarily about me. But so in that transition, it was very, I won't even say what was difficult about the transition is the newness of a thing. Mm-hmm. Like, how can I do this? Where do I start? I'm always a person that's going to seek out wisdom from those with more experience that have done this already. And so it just fueled me to do that even more so. And right around all that time, I get a LinkedIn message from Juanica Brown. The universe is opening up the door again. And you offered the opportunity just to have a conversation about what you could do, and you wanted to listen to me or what I desired to do. And that led to me getting that fire turned up under my feet. And I was like, this is the thing that I needed, the person, the wisdom, the tool, the experience that I needed to get to the next step of founding Envision Consulting Group. Like, this was the spark that lit that fire under my feet to say, hey, this is what you needed. Just like the knowledge and the wisdom I needed to begin understanding financial literacy. It's all about, I think, building understanding and knowledge. And once you gave me so much understanding, it wasn't even as difficult as I thought.